My name is Kate Wren, and at 29 years old, Mom had already set out the plates when I came upstairs. Toast over easy eggs and the exact right amount of hot sauce on the side. She used to do that when I was in high school before early welding practice. For a moment, I let myself believe it meant something. I'll only be gone 2 days, I said, sliding into the chair across from her. Just a maintenance contract at the mill in Brookings. But I start the new job Monday, she nodded, stirring her coffee slowly. That's great, honey. It sounded like a reflex more than a response. Her eyes didn't leave the phone beside her. Even when I smiled, I know it's not a big company like Mara was, but it's solid pay. Full-time benefits. I'll finally be able to pay off the last of what I owe you. Still no eye contact. Just a distracted hum. She typed something and tilted the screen away from me. I focused on my eggs. Don't make it weird, I told myself. She let me stay when I needed it. She didn't have to. When I stood to rinse my plate, she looked up finally and said, "Drive safe." "I will," I said. She kissed my cheek a little too quickly and pulled me into a side hug like we were performing for someone who wasn't there. Then she went back to her phone. The morning sun cast long shadows as I walked to the car. My duffel bag clanked from the welding gear. I placed it in the trunk like I was packing a new beginning. And as I pulled out of the driveway, I looked back once and saw the curtains move. Just a sliver, just enough. I turned onto our street around 6:32, hours earlier than planned. The job had wrapped up faster than expected, and I was eager to crawl into bed. My hands still smelled like hot steel and burnt rubber. Familiar grounding. But as I slowed in front of the house, I saw them, black garbage bags, dozens lined along the edge of the front lawn. Some torn open, spilling socks, sweaters, notebooks, even my welding gloves into the patchy grass near the gate. My duffel bag sat upright like it had been thrown and landed wrong. My gaming monitor leaned crooked against the mailbox, unwrapped, exposed, and standing just beyond the bags. If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. My mother, holding her phone like she was filming a cooking demo. Next to her, Noel had her arm outstretched selfie style, giving her followers a full view of the spectacle. I could hear her voice before I even got out of the car. And there she is, back from another business trip, still owing $8,000 in rent. Watch closely, folks. This is what entitlement looks like. Griffin paced like a bouncer with nowhere to go. When he saw me approaching, he smirked, walked up to one of the bags, and kicked it hard enough to send my book skidding into the dirt. Finally, he muttered, "The family freeloader is out for good." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My chest felt like someone had flipped a switch and drained all the air. My mom raised her phone and narrated, her voice polished and performative. "Kate Wren, 29, living in my basement for months like a parasite. No more. This is your eviction notice, public and permanent." Some neighbors stood frozen on their porches. Mrs. Valen across the street held her dog leash with both hands, expression unreadable. Mr. Linton filmed from behind a bush. No one moved. No one said anything. I bent down slowly, picking up the hardcover that had slid from the bag. The cover was bent. I straightened it, set it aside, picked up the next item. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just kept loading my car piece by piece while Noel's voice rang out from behind me, narrating every step like it was her job. I closed the trunk gently and turned around one last time. They were still filming, still grinning. "Enjoy the show," I said quietly. "You'll be hearing from me soon." I had just closed the back door of my car when I heard the porch door slam open. My dad marched down the steps, face red, jaw clenched, and without a word, he flung a set of keys toward me. They hit the side of my face with a dull thud and landed in the gravel. "Take your junk and get out," he barked. "You're not our daughter anymore." Real adults don't mooch off their parents at your age. I blinked, rubbed my cheek where the metal had struck, then leaned down to pick up the keys. I didn't flinch, not in front of him. He stood there, arms crossed, waiting for some dramatic meltdown. Noelle had her camera angled for a better shot. Griffin was pacing again, grinning like this was a game he'd already won. I opened the driver's side door, climbed in, and shut it with deliberate quiet. Before starting the engine, I looked through the window at all three of them. Mom with her rehearsed indifference, Noah with her manufactured disgust, Griffin with his practiced cruelty. Then I looked at my dad. He didn't break eye contact, but something flickered. Confusion maybe when I didn't break either. I turned the key, pulled away slowly, and didn't look back. I drove aimlessly for a while. The familiar streets of the neighborhood blurred into each other. At some point, I ended up in the grocery store parking lot, headlights off, engine running, just sitting there with both hands on the wheel. It wasn't until I reached Elena's apartment, her porch lights still on, that I remembered the envelope. It had been sitting at the bottom of my filing bin for over a year. Thick paper. No return address. Just my name in my grandfather's unmistakable handwriting. He'd given it to me at the hospital a few weeks before he passed. Said, "Don't open it unless things get bad." I never thought I'd need to. But now everything inside me said, "Open it." I set my overnight bag on the floor, pulled the envelope from the side pocket, and laid it across my knees. Lena made tea and set it on the table beside me, then slipped into her room without asking questions. She knew I'd talk when I was ready. I stared at the envelope for a long time before I opened it. The flap came up cleanly like it had been waiting patiently all this time. Inside was a folded letter, several notarized documents, and a business card from a law firm downtown. The letter was short-handwritten. "Kate, if you're reading this, it means they've done what I feared. I couldn't protect you from them while I was alive. So, I'm doing it now. I've placed part of the house, the lake cabin, and the shop building in your name. It's all legal, all documented. You don't owe them anything. Not apologies, not silence, not guilt. This is for when they forget what you're worth, Grandpa." The room blurred. My fingers trembled. Not from sadness, but something sharper, something like clarity. The documents backed it all up. A living trust. My name was listed next to percentages. 40% of the family home, 50% of a lake cabin in Kiss County, 35% of the commercial building my dad's business ran out of on Riverdale Street. The business card at the bottom read, Arthur Dorsey, Estate and Property Law. The next morning, I called. His receptionist hesitated until I mentioned my grandfather's name, then offered me a last-minute slot that afternoon. Mr. Dorsey's office was in an old stone building near the university. Mahogany furniture, quiet ticking clock, walls lined with legal volumes. He remembered me immediately. "You used to come with him to meetings," he said. "Always brought that little red sketchbook." I nodded. He reviewed the documents carefully, flipping through with the kind of precision only decades of practice could build. When he looked up, his expression was unreadable, but his voice was firm. "It's all valid. The trust was finalized before your grandfather passed. They can't legally remove you, sell without your consent, or claim ignorance. If they've been collecting rent or taking loans against any of these, they may have a bigger problem than they realize." I sat back in the chair, my heart still pounding. "I'm ready to proceed," I said. He leaned forward slightly. "Then, let's begin." The first text came that night. "No, 8:47 p.m. Hey, hope you're not mad. The stream wasn't meant to embarrass you. It was just content. You know how the algorithm is." I didn't answer. By morning, there were 12 more messages. To missed calls from Mom, a voicemail from Griffin, "You're overreacting. It wasn't even that serious. You know how she gets. Just come back and talk like an adult." I forwarded everything to Mr. Dorsey. By midday, Dad's number lit up my screen. "Dad, 1:14 p.m. we need you to sign a few things. No drama, just paperwork. No explanation, no apology. Just instructions." Like I was an employee who missed a deadline. Mr. Dorsey responded on my behalf with a brief formal notice, that all future communication should go through his office. He CC'd their family lawyer. I turned off ride receipts and let the silence do the work. I spent the next few hours organizing. The few things I had salvaged, Lena had cleared a shelf for me, and I stacked my books there, less than half my collection. But enough. I folded the clean clothes, placed the monitor carefully by the desk, and stared at the dent in its frame. Then I picked up a pen. It had been years since I kept a journal. But that night I opened a blank notebook and wrote a single line. They only listened when I stopped explaining. The words came easier after that. Not rage, not revenge, just observations. What I saw in their eyes, what I didn't see in their hearts. What I had mistaken for safety, what I would never unsee again. By the time I closed the journal, my phone was still vibrating every few minutes. Noel's voice memos, Griffin's passive-aggressive guilt, Dad's insistence. I turned the phone face down and let it buzz into the mattress. They were loud. They had always been loud. But this time, my silence said more than their shouting ever could. Mr. Dorsey called 2 days later, his voice calm but clipped. We've finished reviewing the income history on the properties. He said, your parents and brother have been collecting rent from the lake cabin and the commercial building. None of it disclosed to you. I closed my eyes. How much? Just over $50,000. 3 years of tenant payments. Your share wasn't even acknowledged. He said, acknowledged, like it was a clerical oversight. We both knew better. By the end of the day, certified letters had gone out to the family's legal representative, outlining the exact amount owed and my ownership percentages. Mr. Dorsey had also contacted the banks involved with the business loans tied to the commercial property. If they had approved financing without all stakeholders' signatures, they were at risk too. The silence that followed was different this time. Not stunned, not wounded, calculating. 3 days later, Griffin showed up at my new job. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. I had just clocked out for lunch and was heading toward the back parking lot when I saw him leaning against the side of my car, arms folded, phone in hand. I kept walking, didn't stop. Kate, he said, tone to casual. You got a minute? I kept the keys in my grip. Ready? He stepped into my path. We need to talk. I looked him straight in the eye. You're trespassing. Move. He leaned in, voice low and tight. You're tearing the family apart over some technicality. That money wasn't yours. You want to play this lawyer game? Fine. But it won't end the way you think. I didn't flinch. Step away from my car. A couple of co-workers appeared by the exit. One of them called out my name. Griffin turned to look, then stepped back, muttering something under his breath. I won't say it again, I said, pulling out my phone. This is harassment. You need to leave. Security met me by the door minutes later. By then, he was already gone. Back inside, I filed an incident report with the front office and sent the footage from the parking lot camera to Mr. Dorsey. He replied within the hour, noted and logged, proceeding as discussed. They had made the first move. Now, they would learn what it felt like to play defense. They came on a Thursday evening just after sunset. I heard the knock first, sharp and impatient. Then the voices, too many of them. I walked to the door without opening it. The security camera feed on my phone confirmed what I already suspected. All 4 of them. My mother clutching a tissue. My father with arms crossed and jaw locked. Griffin leaning against the wall like this was beneath him. And Noelle standing off to the side, half watching the door and half scrolling her phone. Kate, Mom called out, voice cracking. Please, honey, we just want to talk. This has all gotten out of hand. Dad stepped forward. Open the door. You're acting like a child. From behind them, Griffin muttered something I couldn't hear. Noelle didn't look up. I didn't answer right away. I wanted them to sit in the discomfort. Let it soak. Dad knocked again, harder this time. We are your family. You can't just shut us out over paperwork. I spoke clearly, loud enough for the mic to pick up. All future communication goes through Mr. Dorsey. You've already been informed of this. There was a pause, like they hadn't expected me to respond at all. Mom's voice came next, thinner. "No, you don't have to do this. We can work it out. Just the 5 of us. We'll delete the videos. We'll fix it." From the feed, I watched Noelle glance at her phone and tuck it behind her back. She wasn't here for peace. She was here for footage. "I'm not discussing anything without legal representation," I said. "If you remain here, I will contact building security." Dud's face darkened. "So, you're hiding now behind lawyers. You told me I wasn't your daughter. Remember?" Griffin looked away. Nell started typing something. Mom wiped at her eyes, suddenly out of things to say. They stood there for another minute. Then they left slowly without a word. As soon as the hallway cleared, I locked the deadbolt and opened the laptop. Mr. Dorsey had just emailed me a new file marked settlement negotiation. Initial draft. The offer came 2 days later. Their attorney emailed Mr. Dorsey with a proposal. They would transfer full ownership of the lake cabin to me if I agreed to forgo any claims on the back rent or future income from the commercial building. Mr. Dorsey didn't even hesitate. "We reject," he wrote back, "and we restate our original terms." The cabin was worth less than a third of what I was owed. They thought I'd take the bait, let them off the hook in exchange for peace and a symbolic hand-him-down. But I wasn't interested in symbolism. I wanted acknowledgement. I met with Mr. Dorsey the next morning and laid out what mattered to me: a formal payment plan for the unpaid rent, a third-party property management company to handle all future income, and a written admission of financial misrepresentation. "I want it in writing," I said, "and I want it signed." He nodded once. "Then that's what we'll demand." While negotiations crawled, their cracks began to show. Noah lost over 5,000 followers in a week. Someone from high school had recognized me in her stream and started posting receipts. A few of her sponsors dropped her. She deleted the eviction video. But the internet doesn't forget. Dad's business took a hit too. Turns out one of his clients saw a clip and decided not to move forward with the project. Then, a loan application got flagged. When banks started reviewing ownership documents, the trust surfaced. Mom stopped texting. Griffin sent one angry email that Mr. Dorsey forwarded without comment. Noelle tried calling twice. I didn't answer. When their lawyer finally responded, the tone had changed. Less aggressive, more careful. They agreed to everything: monthly payments, third-party oversight, and a written acknowledgement signed by all 4 of them. I read the document twice before signing. At the bottom, just above my name, I added a sentence of my own. "Truth isn't betrayal. It's what happens when the performance ends." I sent it back and waited. The final part hadn't happened yet. They still had one more thing to do. The apartment was small, but it was mine. 1 bedroom, uneven floorboards, and a draft in the kitchen window that whistled when the wind picked up. But the lease was in my name, and the first month's rent came straight from my paycheck at the new welding job. No shared space, no borrowed time, no one filming at the door. 2 days after I moved in, the envelope arrived. A check, the first installment of the back rent they owed. Paper clipped to it was a folded note written in my mother's handwriting. "We hope we can put this behind us and be a family again. Love, Mom." I stared at it for a long time, not because it moved me, but because of how much it didn't. There was no apology, no ownership. Just hope that I'd forget what it cost me to finally be left alone. I placed the check in my drawer. I didn't reply. That night, while unpacking the last box, I found my old external drive. I plugged it in out of habit, scanning the folder labels, college papers, photos, invoices, and then Grandpa Wave. I clicked play. "Hey kiddo, if you're hearing this, I guess I'm not around anymore. But I want you to remember something. You're going to be okay, even if they never say they're sorry. Some people only value you when they can use you, and when you stop letting them, they call it betrayal. Let them, you just keep being you." I sat there for a while, letting his voice fill the room. No more shouting, no more silence to weaponize. Just his steady warmth echoing through a borrowed speaker in a place that belonged only to me. I pressed save, backed up the file, and placed the drive in the drawer.